Hello, my name's Kate Banks and I run the Theology and Poetry course for the London Jesuit Centre. Poetry and theology are like siblings, always keeping one eye on the other, sometimes in loving attention and at other times in conflict, suspicion or fear that the other is being led astray. In the 20th century, questions of language, meaning making and truth led some in philosophy to dismiss religious language as nonsense. But it led others to reconsider the fundamental relationship between the kind of language we find in theological discourse and the methods of meaning making humans have always explored in poetry. Does the way we use language in theology make more sense when we consider the kind of habits of language we find in poetry? Does the very fact that language is able to make meaning in these ways depend upon certain theological presuppositions? This course combines the close reading of poetry together as a class with an introduction to some key theological texts and concepts. Each week we look at 2 poems and 1 theological text. In week 1, we look at medieval poets and the liturgy. In week 2, we look at some of the metaphysical poets and the Reformation. Midway through the course, we have a lesson dedicated to some of the most important and influential texts exploring this relationship. For example, when Plato banishes the poets from the Republic, or the 6th century Syrian theologian Pseudo-Dionysius, talking about the brilliant darkness of God. In week 4, we come back to poetry with the Victorian poets, and we relate this to some of the theology of the Oxford movement, in particular the doctrine of reserve. And then we finish the course in week 5 with the poetry of David Jones, who's trying to reconcile his experience in the trenches with the sacramental nature of humanity. These classes are half discussion and half taught, and by the end of the course, you will have been introduced to a few of the ways in which looking at these disciplines together changes the way we look at them individually. I look forward to seeing you on the course.